Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Cold Case Christmas. In this episode, we're looking at an unsolved double murder from 1988 and the fight for justice of someone accused of this double murder who happened to be their 17-year-old son. Let's get into the murder of Seymour and Arlene Tankleff. Seymour Tankleff and his wife Arlene lived a good life. They were wealthy, lived in a beautiful home, and had one son, Marty, who was aged 17 at the time of the murders. They absolutely adored him. Seymour was a successful businessman. He enjoyed work, but he enjoyed entertaining more. Loved get-togethers with friends, and they particularly enjoyed playing cards. This particular card game, though, ended in absolute tragedy. Marty woke up early on September 6, 1988. He was looking forward to his first day of school as a high school senior. However, he made a discovery that no son should ever have to make. He found his mother, Arlene, dead in her bedroom, and his father, Seymour, on the floor where he had just had his card game the night before. He was bloody and barely alive. In an attempt to help his dad, Marty put a towel around his dad's bloody neck, a pillow at his feet, and then he called 911. He ran to a neighbour's house for help, and neighbours came round. It was just absolute chaos. When emergency services arrived, Marty told them he thought a man named Jerry was responsible for the attack on his parents. Detective K. James McCready from Suffolk County Police Department arrived on the scene about 7:40 a.m. Marty told him, "Look, there's this guy called Jerry, and it's him. Please go and interview Jerry. Jerry did it." Mirren Fox, who was the family's attorney and Marty's godfather, arrived on the scene about 8 a.m. He had planned on taking Marty to the hospital so he could be with Seymour, who was in critical condition. But Detective McCready stopped Fox and said, "No, actually, Marty's already at the hospital. Don't worry about it." In reality, this was a stalling tactic. Marty was still at the home being questioned by the police. When Marty requested being taken to the hospital, the police refused and insisted that he be taken to the police station to be questioned further. Remember, Marty is only 17 years old, he's a minor. And despite the fact that there was no evidence whatsoever to support the idea that Marty had killed his mother and had grievously harmed his father, so much so that he was now in critical condition fighting for his life, still McCready and the law enforcement thought that Marty was the prime suspect, just another spoilt kid, didn't get his own way for whatever reason, lashed out, and here we are. Marty was taken to the police station, didn't realise he was under arrest, never read his Miranda rights. He was denied to speak to his family's attorney. Given his age, he was a minor, he was 17, he wasn't even provided with an adult advocate of any sort. He was interrogated for 5.5 hours, never offered food, only 1 cup of coffee. He was absolutely adamant that this was Jerry's doing and that he had absolutely nothing to do with what happened to his parents. He was looking forward to starting his high school senior year. He had everything to live for. He loved his parents. They loved him. He had everything he could have wanted. He was baffled, confused, distraught. But McCready tried to convince Marty that he must have blacked out and killed his parents in a blind rage. McCready created a scenario of how the attack might have happened. And Marty conceded that, well, yeah, it could be possible, but quickly recanted it and said, "Look, I didn't do it. It was Jerry. Go and speak to Jerry." But McCready considered Marty's concession a verbal confession, and that was it. Marty had refused to sign a written confession and was never shown what McCready had written on the matter. But Seymour Tankleff died on October 6th. He never regained consciousness. He was never able to speak to detectives to identify the murderer. So Marty was charged and went to trial. In the June of 1990, Marty was convicted of the first-degree murder of his father and second-degree murder of his mother. The conviction was based on the brief verbal concession Marty had given to McCready. It wasn't a confession, it was just conceding that technically that could have happened. Marty was sentenced to 50 years in prison. No other suspects were investigated, although multiple people came forward to the police stating that a man by the name of Jerry Stoneman was responsible for the murders, the same man that Marty had pointed the police towards on the very day that his mother was murdered and his father was found grievously injured. Jerry was a business partner of Seymour. Together they owned a bagel shop, but Jerry owed Seymour $500,000. $500,000. Now, we don't know, but did Seymour ask for that money back? Did an argument break out at the card game over this owed money? We'll never know, but possibly. Jerry was known for spending time with negative elements. He was linked to career criminals. When he had problems he wanted to be solved, he often turned to the Hells Angels to intimidate people, rough them up when it became necessary. On the night before the murder, Seymour had a poker game for friends, and Jerry was in attendance. The poker game ended about 3 a.m. Jerry was the last to leave the home. After all the other poker players had left, Jerry and Seymour were left in the home. Seymour was found in the same room that he was last seen with Jerry just a few hours prior. Documents close to where Seymour was found confirmed Jerry owed him money. However, police did not consider this document to be evidence of anything. Were this police department corrupt? Was the rich Jerry Stoneman able to throw some influence or something? It just has to be asked. Shortly after receiving word that Seymour had survived the attack, Jerry faked his own death. Bizarre. He withdrew $15,000 from his bank, disguised himself and fled to California. His ruse wasn't very good, as instead of a death investigation, he was filed a missing person. When it was discovered Jerry was in California, McCready went to retrieve him. Jerry admitted that he faked his own death because he didn't want to be considered a suspect in Seymour and Arlene's murders. Luckily for Jerry, though, detectives didn't consider him to be a suspect, didn't feel he was capable of the crime. He was a respectable businessman. The fact that he hung out with Hells Angels, irrelevant. His behaviour didn't raise any suspicion whatsoever. But at the time of the Tankleff murders, Suffolk County law enforcement were under investigation for corruption, including problems with coerced confessions. And, it seems that this was it. But a private investigator found new evidence, and Marty, together with a small team, worked tirelessly to regain his freedom. In 2001, he convinced a retired New York City homicide detective to conduct a reinvestigation into the case. All leads led back to Jerry, whose son, it turns out, sold cocaine in the bagel stores. The son's enforcer had bragged over the years in having participated in the Tankleff murders. Through the drug enforcer's arrest records, the investigator found an accomplice who admitted to have been the getaway driver on the night of the murders. After a long road for freedom, on December 28, 2007, the New York Times brought the news that the New York Investigation Commission had begun an official investigation into Suffolk County law enforcement's handling of the Tankleff case. Finally, on July 22, 2008, a state Supreme Court justice dismissed all charges against Marty Tankleff in the murder of his parents, Arlene and Seymour Tankleff. Marty was awarded $18 million from Suffolk County for their role in the case. Marty Tankleff is now a practicing attorney in the state of New York. While he's received some closure for what he endured, he's still not seen the man he believes is responsible for his parents' death pay for his crimes. Jerry Sturman was allowed to walk away a free man. He was never even considered a suspect, despite the evidence against him. His bizarre behaviours. He's never been brought to justice. And Seymour and Arlene, they would be mortified to know that Marty had gone through years, 20 years, to clear his name. But he did it finally. And Jerry's the luckiest man in the world. Let me know what you think about this unsolved murder in the comments below. Do you think it was Jerry? I do, in my opinion. I'll see you very soon in the next episode of Cold Case Christmas. Bye, guys.